Hunter Biden seems to have no real expertise in any of these fields, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the report is suggesting that the Chinese state was specifically interested in creating financial relations with Hunter Biden because he's the son of Joe Biden.
Every individual and institution that is surrounding Hunter Biden, Chris Hines, and the other Americans in this deal, they all have very innocuous sounding names. But if you do background research reports on the institutions or the individuals, they all come from Chinese influence and intelligence organizations. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's, some of them have very innocuous sounding names, and I forget the names off the top of my head. But there was one that's like it's the Chinese Friendship Association or something like that. Okay. And that comes straight out of the United Front organization. And there's, like the CEFC company got its start supplying things to the PLA. And basically was known by the U.S. government. And there's reports as being basically, let's say, an intelligence type of gathering linked organization. And so you look at all these individuals and institutions that are surrounding Hunter Biden, Chris Hines. There are no emails from inside the Chinese government saying, commence Operation KTV. There's no emails from inside the Chinese government saying target Hunter Biden. However, just based upon the company he keeps, it's a very reasonable conclusion to say this was clearly a targeted operation. The analogy that might be used is if a New York City politician, invested in mob-linked businesses, his investors were mob-linked families, and he ate at a specific Italian restaurant owned by the mob, every Thursday night. Do we have conclusive proof that he's, acting in concert with the mob? No, we don't. But is that a very reasonable conclusion? It's a very reasonable conclusion.
Well, here's one thing that occurred to me reading the report, because before I hadn't really been very clear on exactly what investments that BHR was involved in, and like you said, that it was involved in Bank of China and all this stuff, is that why did they need foreign investors to come into this investment, like private equity fund? Like, if the point was that it was just going to be like Chinese state-owned entities investing in other Chinese state-owned entities, what's the purpose of getting like 5 Americans in on your business?
Well, that's the entire question is, if you're going to have a Chinese bank investing with the Chinese local government to build a bridge using a Chinese construction company partnering with other Chinese investment firms, what value does Hunter Biden or Chris Hines add to this entire equation? I mean, nobody knows. They're not bringing investment expertise. They're not bringing additional investors. They have no expertise in the specific industries that are being targeted. They don't have the local government relationships. There's really no clear explanation as to what is the value that the Americans are bringing to this entire endeavor.
Let me see if I can zoom out for a moment, get the big picture. It seems very reasonable to assume that the Chinese state, the Chinese Communist Party, was actively seeking financial relations with Hunter Biden and Chris Hines because of their fathers. It also seems unlikely that Joe Biden really was unaware of these business deals that were happening between Hunter and the Chinese state. Meanwhile, he's at high level dealing directly with Xi Jinping, dealing with China. And so he knows that the things he's talking about with the Chinese state would influence his son's business.
I mean, that all seems, pretty reasonable to me. I mean, for again, I cannot say conclusively what Joe did or did not know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is very clear that Joe either should have known or was just willfully ignorant of anything, because there clearly would have been Secret Service reports passed around Hunter Biden's activities, travels, who he was meeting with, what he was doing. And there's even, I believe, evidence that within the U.S. government there was concern about Hunter's activities. So it's difficult to say he was specifically influenced or anything. At the very least, it seems like an ethical, a very dubious ethical conflict of interest for the Biden family to be involved in.
Well, it definitely is impossible to, without that KTV email, to prove uh, Biden's policies towards China was affected by these relationships. However, the report does point out that there was sort of a transformation in Biden's political career over the years of being actually formerly kind of hawkish on China to becoming more and more friendly towards China.
When Biden was a senator, and he actually chaired the Foreign Relations Committee for a while. And this actually leads back to a very interesting link. The Chinese ambassador to the U.S. was Yang Jiechi, and he would have met regularly. And there's pictures of this, of him meeting with Senator at the time Biden, who was chairing the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And during that time in the Senate, he was a relative hawk on China. He was focused on human rights. Probably there was some partisan issues there also, in that Bush was pushing a little bit more of a conciliatory tone with China. But Biden's hawkishness to China even dated back to the Clinton administration, when he was known as a tougher vote to get on some of these issues. When he joined the Obama administration, he was decidedly different and became increasingly conciliatory towards China. Again, we can't say with any certainty, what caused that, because that was also an Obama administration position writ large. But it definitely does raise concerns about what prompted some of this evolution in Senator Vice President Biden over time.